story this morning is I got to thinking about the summers. We're on the backside of summer, and so that means baseball is beginning to wind down. So I've got a baseball story for you this morning with a little inspiration to it. Back in the mid-1930s, there was a little boy born in Brooklyn, New York, a little Jewish boy, and they named him Sandy. As he grew up, you could tell he had a special talent for playing baseball. And the Brooklyn Dodgers spotted him and signed him as a teenager. And he pitched his first few years in Brooklyn. Brooklyn wasn't the best part of New York City, and their arch rivals were the New York Giants. By 1959, the owners of both those teams had decided that they were going to move their teams to the West Coast. So the Giants went to San Francisco, and Sandy's Dodgers ended up in Los Angeles. So now he was not only a baseball star, but suddenly he'd become almost a movie star because he was in Los Angeles near Hollywood. As Sandy Koufax got a little bit older, he continued to get better and better. It had become the greatest pitcher in major leagues. He was so good that Dodger Hall of Fame announcer Vin Scully gave him the nickname the left arm of God. Now, a lot of baseball players had nicknames back then, but imagine trying to carry that on your shoulder, the left arm of God. He was that good. By 1963, the Dodgers played the Yankees in the World Series. During one of the games, Sandy struck out Yogi Berra. As Berra strolled back to the dugout, Roger Maris was the next hitter, and he said, "Yogi, what's he throwing today?" And Yogi looked up at it and said, "It doesn't matter, you can't see it anyway." So the Dodgers went on to sweep the Yankees, win the World Series. In 1965, the Dodgers returned to the series against the Minnesota Twins. The first game was to be played in Minnesota. Well, Koufax obviously was going to be the starter in game one, but there was a problem. The Jewish holiday Yom Kippur fell on the first game. Well, Sandy went to manager Walter Austin and said, "Walt, I can't pitch today. This is my Jewish holiday. It's the most important day of the year for me." Well, you can imagine what his manager said. What do you mean you can't pitch? This is the World Series. "Well, I'm not pitching." He said, "I will not pitch." Yom Kippur, if you're not familiar with it, and I wasn't, you're not allowed, for 25 hours, you're not allowed to eat, to drink, to work, to have any kind of marital relations, none of that. So it's a very holy day for the Jewish people. So Koufax said, "I'm not pitching." So Austin had to go with his other Hall of Fame pitcher, Don Drysdale. But the Dodgers were kind of stunned by this, and they took to the woodshed in the first game. Koufax came back to pitch the second game, but after having not eaten or drank or anything for 25 hours, he wasn't at his best, and they lost game two. They flew back to Los Angeles and regrouped, won game three, Drysdale won game four, and then Koufax pitched a shutout in game five to give the Dodgers a 3-2 lead. They came back to Minnesota. Minnesota won game six. Game seven, Walt Austin had a decision. Do I pitch Drysdale on the regular 3 days rest, or do I go with Koufax, who's only rested for 2 days? Well, he went with the left arm of God, and he pitched a shutout, and the Dodgers won the championship again. That off-season, Koufax and Drysdale both felt like they were being underpaid, so they asked for a raise. The Dodgers said no. During that spring training, Koufax and Drysdale held out. During this time in Los Angeles, they had made a lot of friends in Hollywood, and one of their best friends, who they appeared on his show, The Rifleman, was Chuck Connors. Chuck Connors, who had to battle for higher pay for his TV series, served as arbitrator for Koufax and Drysdale and got him quite a bit of a raise during that winter and spring. Koufax responded by having the greatest year of his career, winning 27 games, and led the Dodgers back to another World Series. But after the season ended, he called a news conference. And at the news conference, he announced that he was, at the age of 30, at the height of his career, was retiring from baseball. The sports world and the Dodgers were stunned. But the reason he was doing this, during all this time, he had an arthritic left elbow. And every time he pitched, after the games, he'd have to put it in a bucket of ice, take steroid shots and all kinds of shots. And he was worried that he would lose the use of his left arm. See, it was more important, that arm was more important than just throwing a baseball game. One of the press members looked at Koufax and said, "How can you quit? How can you give up all that money?" Koufax paused, looked at him thoughtfully and said, "Yes, I'm going to miss the income. I will miss it, and I'll miss playing baseball." But he held up his left arm. And he said, "What price do you put on a man's arm?" You know, he ate with that arm, he wrote with that arm, everything he did was with his left arm. And God wants us to take care of our bodies like that. They're temples to him. You know, he gave Koufax quite a talent, but he didn't want him to overuse it and be a cripple for the rest of his life. So I thought that was pretty inspirational. Koufax was a man of conviction. He stuck by his religion. He stuck by when he felt like he deserved more pay, and then he had the guts to retire at the height of his powers because to take care of his body. And I just thought I would share that today, and it's something that we probably should think about ourselves, because how many of us could do that, could give up our livelihood